Hello, I am Carly Ann. Whether you are listening to this on my podcast or you're watching this on my YouTube channel, welcome. This is a space for all things understanding, healing, and reshaping your attachment style so that you can feel more secure. You can enjoy relationships more with yourself and with others, and you can experience meaningful, deep love without losing that sense of self. Today, I want to talk to you about a very common but very painful relationship dynamic that perhaps you keep finding yourself in or you're currently in. That tends to be the way that it is. This pattern in particular tends to get repeated over and over again until you really go in and look at what's going on and do the healing work. So you'll find that you'll just go from one person to the next, but keep winding up in this dynamic, unless, of course, you are in a long-term relationship with this person. So this is when someone that is avoidant is dating someone who is anxious, or of course, perhaps you're someone who is anxious, dating someone who is avoidant. Now, just to say, people don't fit into boxes. You can be a bit of both. But with this dynamic, it tends to be that it's playing out that someone is playing out primarily their anxious attachment, whilst the other person is playing out primarily their avoidant attachment, not consciously, I should say. Makes it sound like they're doing it on purpose. You might find, if you are in this dynamic, that you are behaving in ways that don't feel like they're aligned with who you are. You might be doing things, saying things, feeling things that just are completely out of character. You may find that you're confused about how you're showing up, and you might not be proud about how you're showing up. And listen, there is no judgment here. Okay, let's make that very, very clear. So you might be, like I say, your relationship patterns might vary, which I'll touch on again in a minute, but I want you to understand that there is a reason why you keep falling into this pattern. And I want to help you understand that the state of this relationship right now, this doesn't have to be the way that it is. Okay. We can change these patterns. In some cases, yes, the two of you can work together and bring this relationship to a secure place. That is not always the case. So if you think that you can change someone else or just fix a relationship, it's not always the case. I have to be real with you, but it's absolutely not impossible. And look, if you're changing the way that you're showing up, that's naturally going to have an impact on how the other person is showing up as well. So let's talk about this anxious avoidant trap. So I'm going to assume that you already have some knowledge about attachment styles. If you don't, then I would say that the best thing to do is to head to my YouTube channel, because there I have in-depth videos on insecure attachments, so separately about avoidant and anxious, about secure attachment, and about attachment theory. I do have a podcast on it as well. But just basically, you can get all of this information in so many places, but it's very clearly there on my YouTube channel, just to say that. But like I say, because you're here learning specifically about this dynamic, I'm going to assume that you already have some knowledge, because that's what I'm going to do. So when you have a connection or a relationship with someone, like I've just referred to, with someone who is an anxious attachment and someone who is an avoidant attachment, it's referred to as the anxious-avoidant dance, or it's often called the anxious-avoidant trap. I think just those words really show you that there's kind of expected moves and dynamics between these two people. There are textbook ways that they behave with each other, with themselves. And the anxious-avoidant trap, it just really demonstrates how trapped you can feel, how stuck you can really be. Because remember, this is old, painful wounds when it's attachment styles involved. So it can feel like you're really trapped there. You may well know what is best for you. You might know that you need to walk away from this person and for both of you to go down your separate paths. Who knows what will happen in the future? But for some reason, you keep finding yourself pulled back towards this specific person. So that's whatever your attachment style, you can find yourself feeling like that. Now, very often, it will feel like the anxious person is the one doing the chasing. That is the way that this dynamic works. Both are painful. The sort of physical pain that comes as a result of that anxiety that people often describe feeling, it tends to be anxious that will really feel that. But the avoidant is going through it as well, especially if you are aware of it. Like, if you're aware of these patterns and feel unable to change, that can be really frustrating. That can be really painful. But if it's unconscious, it's likely that the pain is really showing through the anxious person. So let's say we've got, whether you're anxious or the avoidant, we've got two people that are in relation with each other in some way. Now, you can absolutely be in a long-term relationship. You might have a situationship. You might have just been on a couple of dates and find yourself in this pattern. It might be a long-distance relationship. One of you might be in another relationship. Both of you might be in another relationship. This duo can come in all shapes and sizes, and each one of them are as confusing and as ambiguous as the other. And that's the real thing about this dynamic. There's a lot of stuff unsaid. There's a lot going on that is not being communicated with each other because either you don't know how to, or you don't know how to, and you don't want to. Perhaps there's fears of being needy or seeming like, if I say that, it might really seem like I care, and then they're going to want a relationship with me. So if you're here and you are currently stuck in this, or you keep finding yourself here, I have to pause this and make sure that you know about my membership. Follow Your Fire is an online community space for all things attachment styles and rediscovering yourself so that you can heal these wounds. Inside the membership, you will find masterclasses, resources, guest experts, practices that are specifically designed to help people to go from insecure to secure, because I know what it feels like to be in this life when you've fallen into your attachment style leading the way, leading how you experience love and relationships and your dating world. And it doesn't have to be like that. There is another way another path that you can choose if you're willing to put in that commitment, that energy, and the effort that it takes to heal your attachment styles. And I'm showing you that inside Follow Your Fire, my membership. I say it like that because this stuff just doesn't just heal itself. I still have to work on this every single day. And I don't want you to think that I don't. Oh my goodness. When I say every single days are easier than others. It's like sometimes I'm literally just like, how did that not trigger me? So trust me, this works. But I remember a lot this dynamic. So let me describe it to you a little bit because examples can help. I'm going to use my own examples. So the ones that we often remember is when you've had an anxious experience dating someone avoidant, because like I say, it's very, very painful. And it's that chasing energy. You're very much stuck. There's no facing forward. You're looking behind at this person or across at this person, absolutely behaving in ways that you just can't even say out loud to people. So my examples would be just chasing someone that I knew was not interested, was not going to be able to commit to me, and they would consume my thoughts. especially when it was over. So if they had ended it, that is when I would really fall into that anxious pattern. And it really does become like an obsession, right? If you're in it, then you're the one changing your plans. You're the one not making plans just in case. You're the one trying to get them to behave in certain ways and change and be there, and thinking that you can change them. And when it's that avoidant, it can suddenly be like, oh, this person is so needy. This person wants too much from me. And you might find that you're frustrated and there isn't this need to text them. If anything, perhaps they send you a message and it kind of like irks you a little bit. And it's a bit frustrating. Like, why are they contacting me all the time, even though they really might not be? But we see this play out in so many different ways. For me, it was like just suddenly getting the ick, or in many cases, it was not even giving people the time of day to get to know them. Just immediately, if they like me, thinking that is too much, they want too much from me, and not even giving them that chance. I haven't had the personal experience really where I've like led someone on too far, because when I'm avoidant, it tends to happen like pretty much immediately. But of course, I know that some people, like I say, can stay in long-term relationships. So it can completely vary. So here's the thing about people with anxious and avoidant. And I say this all the time, and I'm going to say it again. And that is that there are no bad guys. The avoidant often gets the label of being the villain. The anxious often gets the label of being the needy, jealous one. Both of you fall under the umbrella of an insecure attachment style. So that means that both of these people have relationship blueprints based on past experiences that have left you with deep fears of rejection and abandonment. I say that because we all have a fear of rejection and abandonment, because you're human. But when there's an insecure attachment involved, it's a very, very deep and very real and current fear that is impacting both of your abilities to regulate yourselves. And listen, someone avoidant might seem regulated, but we know that on the inside, that's not necessarily what's going on. There are a lot of stress hormones going on. The ability to communicate, it impacts the ability to deal with conflict. It impacts your ability around resilience with love, to get up and go again, to continue opening your heart, to continue putting yourself out there. So these insecurities really impact both people. Don't think it's just one. It's not helpful to fall into that pattern itself. Both people find it difficult to form that intimacy. They find it hard to trust, find it hard to believe in love and relationships. And the way that they view themselves and the way that they view others and relationships is they have that template already. Luckily, we can absolutely reshape that. That's the work that I'm here doing with people. So the difficulty about this dance in particular is that these two people, these insecurities that I'm talking about, these two people enhance each other's insecurities. So they bring out like almost like, oh no, I don't even want to say this. It's coming out of my mouth, so I'll say it, but I hope you know I don't mean that. But they bring out the worst in each other. The reason I say that is because all parts of us are welcome. We don't have bad parts, and that's a lot of the work that I do with people, is to help you communicate with these different parts that come out in ways that perhaps don't help you to show up as your best self. This might not be your intentions, okay? If it is your intention to behave in these ways, then perhaps that's just not very kind, and you need to look at that. But in this case, it's often not intentional. It's these insecurities that are at play, okay? At some point, these two people developed ways of coping. coping with closeness, with relationships, with intimacy. They developed ways to cope with the fear of abandonment or actually being abandoned. You know, people have experienced so many different things. And the way that they cope is not the same as each other. There's definitely crossovers, don't get me wrong. And a lot of the healing that I do, there's crossovers. Some of the work that I do is different. What someone with an anxious attachment needs, something that's different to someone with an avoidant attachment. There's like tongue twisters. But there's also a lot of crossovers as well. So on the one hand, you've got the person primarily with the anxious attachment who is determined to like never be alone, to be they want to be close to someone. They judge their worth around that closeness. They have a need and a dependency on this other person, especially if they're pulling away, and they will do what they can to achieve that closeness, especially when they are triggered. Okay, while someone with an avoidant attachment, they cope by shutting down, they move away, they keep themselves distant. So they might feel certain negative emotions in relation to someone who wants to get closer to them automatically. It might just like, it might feel a bit too much to them. They're either just not used to it, and so it dysregulates them, or that's their coping strategy. And you can see how these enhance each other, because someone pulling away, the avoidant person, when there is a hint of connection, closeness, relationship, they pull away. And so the anxious person goes into overdrive. They become very hyper alert. They go into panic mode and need that closeness. And so they're going out of their way to get that closeness, not thinking really about what the other person needs and not thinking about who they really are. They're not being their secure self. And the avoidant person, as they receive this information to be like, this is taking my freedom, this is too much. And what this does is it confirms for the avoidant person their beliefs around relationships, which is that they take my freedom, it hurts, people want too much from me, I can't rely on other people, and so they continue to pull away. For the anxious person, that confirms their beliefs that people leave, love hurts, people never stick around for me. And so as they continue to chase, the avoidant person continues to pull away, and this is the dance. It can show up in many different ways. It really, really can, as I was saying earlier. Perhaps I'll do a video, I think it would be a YouTube video. So if this is something you want to see, definitely get in touch and let me know. If you're listening on my podcast, and send me a DM. If you're watching this on YouTube, just put a comment in the comment box to let me know that you would want me to do this video. But perhaps I can do a very specific video about what happens for each person in this dynamic. So like the beliefs that they have, how this leads to their behaviors. And as well as that, the other one that's coming to me that I think might be quite useful is like types of anxious people, types of avoidant people. Not that you fit into one category. I have to say that again. I'll say it over and over again. No one fits in boxes. You're your own individual person. But I actually find it, for me personally, in my own experience of healing, one of the things that really, really helped me about attachment styles was realizing like, oh, wow, like these things I'm reading or hearing about is literally me. And so already that puts a distance between you and this situation, because you realize, okay, this isn't just me. Like I'm not broken or something. There's actually something going on here. And so I tend to find when we talk about, certain thoughts that we fall into, or types of anxiety or types of avoidant, it can actually be really useful to see it and be like, oh, wow, I'm not on my own. Because that's the best feeling in the world, right? Is to know that we're not on our own in this. And that's why I talk about follow your fire all the time. So many benefits to it, but knowing you're not on your own is probably the one that people say the most to me in the feedback. So this relationship dynamic, It's an absolute roller coaster for everyone involved. Both might feel confused by this attraction, the highs, the lows, their own behavior, why you're engaging in something that's giving you this absolute roller coaster. And like I say, someone, someone who is anxious, they might actually be really confident and completely have it together. And then here they are suddenly like obsessing and checking and organizing run-ins and doing things that they're like, who is this person? This is not me. And especially if it's new to you, I know it's not new to many people, but if this is the first time you found it, perhaps if you've been in a long-term relationship with someone secure, for example, and then you've come out and you've suddenly found yourself in this dynamic, it can be so confusing. Someone avoidant might like this person, but find themselves ignoring them and being harsh and hot and cold. And they're confused as to whether, do I want this person or do I not? I'm really confused. Do I want to stay here or do I want to leave? So it's an absolute roller coaster for your own experience, let alone what you are going through together, So the next part I want to go through with you that I think can be useful to know is, like, what do you get from this? What does each person get? Like, why am I in this? Why am I here engaging in this roller coaster that is not the good kind? So let's talk about the anxious person. So there is a very simple way to put this, actually. It's like a drug. It is a high. When that person reaches out, sends that message, comes to see you, it's a high. And it is like that chase, and that high gives you that self-worth. It gives you that boost. And it is literally like needing that drug, and you will do anything to do it. And then you'll crash again. And that will just send you back wanting to get that drug, wanting that high again. And it becomes very, very addictive. It can be very familiar. Often with this dynamic, something like this has played out for you before. And so this feeling of the hot and cold, the back and forth, the not knowing where you stand, the unpredictable love, the chaos, it can be very, very familiar to you. So this is just what love is. This is your definition of love that you're not really questioning, because it's like, yeah, this is it. This is what love feels like. You've not taught yourself what it really feels like to feel secure and regulated in your love life. If anything, that has an opinion that it's boring or that it's not love, but that is not the case. Another reason is the possibility of being chosen. Like, your ego wants that. You want that because you're human, but also depending on your past experiences, where there might have been times where you weren't chosen, or you certainly believed that you weren't chosen. Perhaps you lost someone. Remember, a child takes things very personally. So this becomes like a chase, and the possibility of, if this person chooses me unconsciously, it will mean that it changes the past. It fixes everything. I'm finally wanted. I haven't been abandoned. I am good enough. And sometimes that's exactly what the next one is. Sometimes you feel good enough because you base your self-worth on this person calling you, choosing you, seeing you. That means that sometimes you get to feel enough. That high, that drug I was talking about, is you feeling enough, as well as all the other things that go with it. To feel good enough is what we strive for. It really, really is. That's what we want in life. We want to feel like we are enough, like we fit in. When you put your self-worth in the hands of someone else, and unconsciously you really believe that that's when you're enough, you're going to do what it takes to be enough. That's why we have to completely strip everything back and decide and connect with our true self-worth, so that we can stop putting it in the hands of people that cannot deliver. And another reason is that this is what you believe you deserve. The relationships that you attract, that you engage in, the people that you allow in your life, the boundaries that you don't set, or the boundaries that you do set, this is what you believe that you deserve. So really take some time to understand that, because if you're hurting, And if you keep hurting, then something has to change. And that is to start really tuning into what it is that you deserve. If you keep finding yourself here, a simple cognitive promise is not going to be enough. Okay, next time I'm going to know what I deserve. I know what I deserve now. I've been there. Many of us have been there. It's not enough. It doesn't work. You actually really need to go and do the work and teach yourself and reparent yourself that you are enough, that you are lovable, that you are irreplaceable, and that you deserve a real meaningful kind of love with boundaries and with communication, and without the fear that someone's going to leave you because you had an argument, you know. So what you believe you deserve is another reason that you find yourself here. Let's look at the avoidant. So what do you gain? Why are you here? You know, why do you find yourself in these patterns? It's a boost of self-worth. Okay, so we are looking in both of these that there is difficulties and a misunderstanding about how worthy you are as a human being. If you're avoidant, you may not realize it, but deep down somewhere, you don't know your value on this earth and in relationships. And so these people give you that boost of self-worth. And it feels good to feel worthy. It feels good in that moment to feel good enough. And that is why you will engage in this, especially because they keep coming back. This person very clearly wants you, very clearly likes you, you know? So that's a boost for you. That's telling you, I am enough. Someone chases me. You know, people didn't chase me before, or whatever it is that happened. It's this, the next reason is that validation, the validation that you are wanted, needed, attractive. I don't know what the outside validation is that you're seeking, but somewhere I imagine this person is giving you that. If you could give that to yourself already, that's going to change the dynamic of this relationship, because one, you wouldn't be allowing this person to keep coming back to you, allowing yourself to be in this relationship. I don't want it to sound like it's your fault or you're in complete control. But like I've said already, the anxious person does tend to be the one that's doing the chasing. That is the dynamic here. They have a lot less control than the avoidant person. That doesn't make anyone good or bad, as I've already said. And speaking of control, that's another reason, that's something else that the avoidant person gains. They gain control. You get to decide how close someone gets. You get to decide when you can have that closeness. You get to decide when you want it and when you don't. You get control over the possibility of abandonment because you know that you can end it. And you can very clearly see that this person isn't going to end it, even if this is all happening unconsciously. And that's the next reason. This is giving you a safe relationship, to be wanted that much, to know that it's safer, that you're probably not going to be abandoned or rejected. And that's why with a lot of avoidance, what you see is if there is a sign that the anxious person is moving on, you might then be like, maybe I do like that person. Am I attracted to that person? Where have they gone? You know, because then it's taken away that safe relationship, it's taken away that control. And that's why you might find yourself really believing, I do want to see them again. And then the dynamic starts again, their anxiety kicks in, and then it's all safe and you can pull back again. And the next reason, again, this is what you believe you deserve. This is the dynamic you believe you deserve. You don't know that you deserve true, genuine, extraordinary connection and love, and you don't know how to have it. This is what you believe that you are capable of, and this is what you believe that you deserve. Anyone listening to this deserves to have a very respectful, calm, regulated relationship. Yes, you can be attracted to each other and fancy each other. I want to rip each other's clothes off. Absolutely. You don't have to give that up, but it's all of the other stuff that on its own is not enough. It is not enough. And these reasons here for being in a relationship, they're not going to give you the fulfilling feeling and trust and security that you deserve and are deep down looking for. When you go into a relationship based on all of these gains, you're going in and it's already messy. There's already a very messy dynamic here. If the two of you are listening to this together, deciding we want a secure relationship, it is possible. If it's one of you, I'm not sure. A lot of people will say to me, how do I tell the person that I'm dating that they're avoidant? I've got different ideas on that. But yeah, if you're listening together, then, you know, the very first thing for anyone is that you have to become secure first. Don't worry about the other person and what they're doing and what they know and what they don't know. This isn't going to work if your primary attachment style is not secure. You need to be secure as well. You know, I see so many anxious clients. Usually they'll come to me actually on the discovery call. It's before you become my client. And this is really how I can tell who's going to become my client and who isn't. People who come into my discovery calls and are just simply talking about the other person and how they're showing up and what they're doing and what they're not doing, but they said this and they said that and they did this, and we're probably not going to work together at this stage. Not through my choice, but you've not yet seen that this is your actions, this is your choices, this is your decisions that's keeping you here, and all of the overthinking is just part of it. If there is a blame aspect going on, it can be really hard to change. So, but it's always possible. I am absolutely wanting to remind you of that. So what can you do next? I've already given you some sort of like hints and tips along the way that weren't necessarily planned. They just came out naturally. But I have to say, it really does depend on the level of the situation that you're in and how deep you are in. But ultimately, like I said, focus on you. Like, focus on you becoming secure. Because if it's not this relationship, it's going to be the next one that leads you back here anyway. This person is just shining a light on something that's going on for you. And if you find the strength to walk away from this, are you going to just walk into it with the next person because you've not done any of the healing work on yourself to become secure? Because you're not accessing your secure self. You need to heal the parts of you. I talk a lot about parts work, and my clients be like, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm bringing it into the membership as well. You need to heal the parts of you that believe that this is what you deserve. You need to heal the parts of you that seek validation and self-worth from these people. And you need to heal the part of you that believes that you're always going to be abandoned if you let someone in, or that you can't trust people. Those parts need to be healed. So you probably will know one of the next steps is to join my membership, to come and join your community, people just like you, just like me, that are on this same journey of healing attachment wounds. Not that many people are on this journey. People are going to repeat this for years and years and years. If you're here and you've read the books and you know the theory, and now you want to really break free and change it, then join the membership. You've got masterclasses in there. You've got the guest experts that are very specific around attachment styles and healing to help you. And you have some of the best masterclasses from yours truly. We are really doing this together. If you want to go deeper, then get in touch about working with me one-to-one. Honestly, binge my podcast, binge my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram. It's all there. And we're all becoming secure together. It's an absolute journey. We have to slow down when we want to speed up, but it works. And I know that for sure from my own experience. And if that isn't believable enough, I see it in my clients. You know, go and check out some of the testimonials on the website or on my Instagram, and you will see the shifts that people experience. So you're not stuck in this situation. It might feel like you are. Do not forget, you're enough, you're lovable, you are so, so worthy, and you are irreplaceable.